Claire lives in a small service pod that orbits a red world, and she works. Pair on outer hulls, she rises before the first light of the red world, and breath fog forms in the pod. Since heat is low to save power, she likes the hush of early hour. As silent as Snosh is not alone in the pod, there is an alien woman who came with the lease, as if the pod itself brought her. The lease calls the alien a domestic custodian, and a cultural aide. Claire calls her Myra, because that is the closest human word to the sounds the alien makes when she rests. Myra has gray-blue skin that shifts like tidewater and hair that looks like soft moss. Her wrists ring with faint light, like calm lightning. She hums when she cleans, and the hum sounds like wind through reed. Zimra tidies the tiny galley and arranges the repair patches in neat rows. She washes the hard-shell suit with slow care, as if she is washing a sleeping animal. She speaks to the suit and calls it brave. One Claire laughs and tells her that a suit is not brave, but Myra answers with a look that is kind and firm. Humans wear brave skin, she says in her soft voice, and the words warm. The pod word of the outpost is always the same. No one passes the blind window. The blind window sits in the corridor near the cargo lock and shows only black glass. The rules say do not touch and do not look in the station. Canteen people tell stories of the blind window and drink cheap coffee and keep eyes low. Some say it leads to open space and will pull a soul out and freeze it like dust. Some say it is a mirror that shows the worst day of a life. Some say it is a gift from the builders who shaped the red world and then left the rules say, do not touch and do not look, and so no one. Dosmira wipes the counter and then looks at Claire with calm eyes. She tells Claire to peek. She says this many times, and always with the same gentle push. Peek a little, and then step back. Peek and learn, and then breathe. Peek, and you will know why we came. Claire shakes her head and says that she values her job and her lungs and her life. Myra nods as if she understands, and then brings tea that tastes like green stone. Days pass, and work eats the muscles in Claire's arms. She drills plates and seals seams and fills micro cracks with silver paste. She floats above the red world and thinks of storms, the color of rust. She comes home and sees Myra folding cloth that smells like clean rain. Myra asks again for a peek. Claire says not today, and her voice feels thin. Myra only hums and places a warm hand on Claire's shoulder. Thinks of the last war she joined when Earth held a line around the moon. She thinks of a message that never arrived and a name that fell out of her mouth. In a field of machines, she keeps her medals in a sock and never looks at them. She knows why the rules say, do not look. She knows her heart can break if pushed the wrong way. A night after a long repair, a whole plate snapped a strut, and the shock spun Claire into a slow tumble. The tether held, but when she drifted home her hands shook. Myra met her at the lock and held her steady. Myra whispered that the brave skin had done enough for one day. Claire breathed and let the shaking pass, like a wave. After that night, the blind window lived in her thoughts. She dreamed of dark glass that drank light and gave quiet in return. She woke with the word peek on her tongue and found Myra already awake and watching with kind patience. Peek, she said again and again with a smile that did not press to hard on a rest day. Claire agrees to walk with Myra. They pass the canteen where workers slurp soup and swap parts and news. They pass a mural with stars drawn by a child hand and a stick figure. With a blue circle, they reach the corridor with the blind window, and the lights there always feel one. No till Myra stops at the black glass. She places her palm on it, and the wrist light glows like a lantern underwater. She tells Claire that her people call this a listening wall. She says it does not eat a soul, and it does not bite a mind. It only gives back what lives beyond fear. Claire knows she should leave, yet her boots stay still. Myra asks again for a peek. She says the wall will show a path where human courage becomes a river. She says her sisters built such walls to teach small ones how to hold storms. Inside, Claire looks down at her gloves and thinks of the moon line and the medals in the sock. She thinks of a friend named Paige who never came back, and of a message that never found a port. Claire breathes and lifts her face to the black. Glassed first peek is a thin slice like a paper-cut. Light runs through the pane like old honey. She sees herself on a ridge of red dust with the sky pale as bone. she sees a tower that hums like Myra hums. When she cleans, she steps back, and the image fades like a whisper in the throat Myra squeezes her hand and asks for one more peek. Claire nods and leans in this time. The wall opens like a curtain pulled by a slow wind. She sees the red world, but now full of green vines that climb like hope. She sees human workers and alien women side by side, and laughter draws bright arcs through the air. She sees Paige seated on a crate and safe and whole, and the sight makes a single hot tear rise and hang in the air. Claire whispers but catches the sound and folds it. Into her breath, she steps back and holds the rail to steady herself. Myra does not push now, she waits and watches like a lighthouse watch in long night. She says, "The wall shows what might be if a brave skin walks forward and gives shape to fear." She says the wall is old and patient and answers to courage, not to rules. Claire thinks of the station rules and knows they were written by people who never carried a humming tower or planted a first seed. She thinks of HFY spirit that she learned in old academy halls. Humans make fire and rain and build bridges in wind, and they learn how to ask for help without shame. She looks at Myra and sees how the alien woman stands like a gate with her hands open. "Own more peak," she says, and the wall opens wider. She sees an engine of light that rides gravity like a wave. She sees a map of the red world with blue lines that trace rivers yet to be. She sees the blind window become a bright window, and the corridor filled with people who cheer without words. She sees herself in a hard suit and also in a woven cloak of moss like Myra hair. She sees her hands plant a small tree in warm soil. She sees Paige again, but now Paige does not look like a ghost. Paige smiles and gives a nod that says go. Claire pulls away and presses her palms to her eyes. She feels the quake of grief and the lift of resolve. She knows the wall is not a mirror of loss, but a mirror of choice. She hears the old academy voice inside that says, "Makes the tea that tastes like green stone." They sit on the floor since the chairs feel too sharp for the soft moment. Myra tells story of her world where storms roll in slow spirals and children learn to listen to wind. She says her sisters carry listening walls on their backs. When they go to new places, they plant the walls like seeds so that new friends can hear what they already erect. Asks how many sisters came to the station. Myra answers with a number that does not translate and laughs softly when Claire tries to count on fingers. She says enough. She says more if needed. She says human hearts call and her sisters arrive like rain. Next week, Claire asks for a tool from stores and signs the form that says experimental salvage. She and Myra return to the blind window with a small crew. There is Katie, who handles codes. There is Nora, who can coax power from dead metal. There is Zoe, who tells jokes that hold nerves in place. They stand before the wall and do not hide the fear that lives in knees and wrists. Claire speaks in a voice that feels new. She tells the crew that this is a listening wall and that it will show a path if they show it courage. She tells them that no one is forced and that nothing is taken. She says they will only peek, and only with open hands. The crew nods, and the nod spreads like a calm titteth. First test is simple. Katie touches a panel and feeds one thin braid of current. The wall warms but does not flare. Nora tunes a coil, and the hum steps into a steadier pitch. Zoe leans near and tells the wall a joke, and then a story about her grandma who made bread in a tin can on a camping trip. The wall gives a ripple like a stone dropped in a lake. Claire places her palm on the glass and breathes slow. She thinks of Paige and of the moon line and of the metals in the sock. She says in her mind that she will walk forward and that she will plant what the wall shows. She peeks, light builds. It does not blind shapes rise like mountains under snow. The crew sees a corridor that bends into a garden that does not yet exist. They see a hangar filled with machines that drink sunlight. They see a wave of people moving with purpose and kindness. Zoe starts to cry and laughs at the same time and says she has never seen hope look so practical. They've spent many days with the wall each day. The images grow clearer as if their work polishes an inner lens. Myra teaches them to hum the steady hum, and the wall hums back. Katie learns to listen for the small clicks that mean yes. Nora learns that a lull in the sound means wait, and she waits without shame. Zoe learns that a joke at the right moment can move a stuck thought like a levered station. Notices some officials say stop and shake papers and point to rules, but more people whisper in the canteen and bring lunch to the corridor, and set it on a table for the crew. An old miner named Lori brings a bag of seed saved from a terrace on Mars and sets it by the window. She says, "Plant these when the time is right," and everyone nods. An evening, a solar storm flows over the station like a river of light. Alarms shout and lights flicker and the whole groans. The blind window shines like a lantern, and then